Hello and welcome to this one-off podcast brought to you by CTO Academy and our friends at Bite Size Books. More about that in a moment. And during this podcast, we're going to be exploring the sometimes yawning schism that can exist between non-tech leaders and their technology teams. And this is a conversation that's been stimulated by the forthcoming release of a book that addresses this very issue, Bridging the Gap, a practical technology guide for non-technology leaders, published by Bite Size Books. And as we record this in early September 2025, due out any day. They keep telling me, due out any day.
Any day.
Any day. My name's Andrew Weaver, CEO at CTO Academy. And whilst I've had a small hand in writing this book, whilst firmly wearing my non-techie hat, let me tell you, the heart and the soul of this project has come from my friend and co-author and co-host, joining us from Colorado and representing the Technologist Corner, Mr. Casey McCurdy. Welcome, Casey.
Thank you, Andrew. Looking forward to chatting here.
Indeed. Always lovely to see you. And we've had quite an adventure since I first contacted Casey and said, do you fancy writing a book about how to help non-technology leaders? And boy, you've taken this, mate. And I thank you and applaud you for it. And we're going to dive into some of the topics that we've covered in the book in more detail. But just to set a bit of context for the audience, Casey, your own journey into your current role, just walk us a little bit through your CV.
Man, I was looking back, how do you get this into a paragraph? It's somewhere around 1997 in high school, I wrote my first line of JavaScript. And, my first high school job, aside from working in a grocery store, my real world job, I got to spend half a day in high school just making web pages and fixing computers. Like how cool was that? What an opportunity. And, this is back in the early 2000s. So I went to school to become, I went to school for design, actually, to become a web designer. If you remember that term from back in the day. Do you remember webmasters too? Do you remember that was a job you could have? Yeah. It was a simpler time. And so right out of college, when I was about 19, I went to school for 2 years. I started working for a really large publicly traded company and learned a lot about the rigor required to go quarter to quarter and do that. And then through starting several of my own companies and scratching my own itch, I learned to write code. And I found out that I really love making things work. And so I've been pretty much everywhere, from my own 1, 2, 3, 4 person startups to working for the darling children of Silicon Valley to multi-billion-dollar Fortune 500s. So as I look back on my career, it's been incredibly unpredictable, but it's been a really fun adventure. And I wouldn't trade all of the experiences I've gotten working from companies large to small for anything. It's been an incredible ride.
Well, that's very cool,
and I'm not done yet. I don't think it's over yet. So I'm looking forward to
Well, I was about to say to the audience that we have a few miles on our clock or kilometers on our clock, Casey, but there's still some more mileage to go. And listen, it's been amazing for me actually sharing this journey with you because there is so much experience in there. I mean, my non-techie credentials are strong, and as I say, I wear them with pride. The vast majority of my career, I've got to tell you, untouched by technology and technologists. So I was in a family business. I did an MBA. I was then involved in corporate deals where I was helping people like my dad really sell their businesses, kind of selling decent-sized family businesses. And then I got a bit bored of helping other people sell their businesses, and I got involved in startups, which is really where I started bumping up against technologists, but also the challenges that they faced dealing with non-tech founders, non-tech managers and leaders. And so, and I realized that a lot of the fault, of course, was coming from people like me. So when this kind of idea bubbled up, I thought, I've got to bring in someone like you, Casey, and just, try and get under the skin of what it's been like from your perspective in dealing with this and what the solutions might be. So I'm beginning to walk us towards the motivation for actually writing the book, but just tell us a little bit more about why it was particularly interesting and has been challenging in the past for you.
Man, we were first off, the number of times we thought the book was done, it's been a journey. So, your credentials and your background have been super helpful in helping to make sure this wasn't just a book about, some tech guy ranting about how the business doesn't get him,
Although there was a bit of that in there, and I hope it's still in there.
Yeah, there's you can tell what the scars are in the book for sure. It's in today's tech-centric world, like why is it important to have kind of bridge this gap between the leadership and the techies, the non-techies and the techies. And it's, if you think about with AI and all the tooling on the horizon, there's actually never been more of a need for more technology in an organization, not less. Like we're not trending towards less technology. That's for sure. And so even with all of this advanced tooling we have, with all of the new things that are seemingly coming out every other week or every other day at this point in time, you still need to know how to interact with your technologists, with those people that are more engineering minded. Even if only to have them help you when your vibe coded app has exploded and is being, attacked by Russian hackers or something. But to be real, there's a quote I use in the book, and I probably overused the quote. It's from a guy named Marty Cagan from the Silicon Valley Product Group. I just really, really love his insights into things. He says, if you only use your engineers to write code, you're only getting about half of their value. And so to me, my hope in working on this project with you and writing this book is that we can help people that are not engineering minded to empathize with those engineering minded people, because they're going to solve problems different than you. They just think differently. And so even if you have tools that could write 100% of the code for you and it was perfectly production ready and ready to go, the way that an engineer thinks is still extremely, extremely valuable to your organization. And I think that we're going to need, as I said at the start of this, more of that, not less of that going forward.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely right. I mean, from my perspective, I mean, working with CTO Academy has been fascinating. So just very briefly, CTO Academy helps develop the leadership skills of people with a very technical background. But quite often we find ourselves, there's a problem comes into the discussion group or a live session, and it's seemingly a technical problem. And almost always, or quite often, it comes down to simple communication challenges. Mm-hmm. Particularly between the non-tech and the tech. And I think the other challenge, Casey, that I've seen, and I'm sure you've also been aware of during your career, is that every modern company is a tech company, right? And as you've rightly pointed out, that's only going to get more extreme. And yet the legacy of tech being a cost center is still really prevalent. So, for example, we did a survey recently just asking members of our community, how many of your companies have got a CTO on the board? Less than 50%. So less than 50% of companies where tech is at the heart of that company have got a senior technologist making those key business decisions. And the flip side of that, I'm interested in your perspective on this as well. The flip side of that is that sometimes the board or the CEO in particular gets pretty frustrated with the lack of business savvy coming out of the senior tech team. And I think that's, again, part of the schism, part of the reason for the schism, that they just don't think that the CTO gets it. Right, that the senior tech team get it. So there's a reverse to this, but I think my perspective, and clearly it's one that you're sharing and articulating in this book, is that the struggles from a technologist perspective are a lot around communication, and that gap needs to be bridged from both sides.
Yeah, it's funny. By the way, as a graduate of CTO Academy, can't recommend it enough. And I'm reminded of one of the first lessons in kind of modules I went through, and I think it was called "It's rarely about the tech," right? And I think you're pretty transparent when you start CTO Academy that it's rarely about the tech, and I think that's a good framing for the entire course. So it was, again, kudos, job well done on that. With regards to, what you said, like the fact that something like CTO Academy exists and, it has this vibrant online community that I get to be a part of, it's because, generally it's on the engineers, it's on the techies to learn more about the business, right? It's kind of incumbent on us. Like, hey, you engineers, you need to learn how profit and loss statements work, and you need to understand, like, okay, but rarely do you hear, business leaders being told, you really need to understand how your engineers think. And so for me, being able to write this, it was like I got to say all the things in the book that I've wanted to say to people my entire career. Like, you just don't get this, or you need to understand that. And a big part of that, like you said, is those communications gap. That's basically the entire premise of the book. To a lot of people, engineers sound like they're just speaking gibberish, or they might seem really harsh or direct, or maybe sometimes overdramatic. Like, let's be real. But like what stems out of that communication gap is you get issues with trust. If you can't understand or empathize with somebody, you'll never trust them, especially when they tell you that what you and your brain and what ChatGPT told you is going to be a 2-week project is actually going to take the rest of the quarter for a number of reasons. So if you're non-technical and working on the business, I mean, come on, you've got a lot going on already. If you're a publicly traded company, you've got, the upcoming quarterly business review coming up. You've got to get the numbers ready for the street to look at. You've got plenty on your plate. Learning how to trust the technologists in your organization makes it so you don't need yet another job. Let them do what they're good at, but just have the empathy and the ability to understand the way they communicate and they act. Man, it's a superpower for you. It's something for sure you need to do.
Yeah, I was giggling to myself about the overdramatic. I mean, I've written this book with you, and I've sat in your shadow, and I've really learned a lot just from what you've been unloading, really. But I had a moment this morning where, I had an incident with a member of the tech team where a revenue generating task was a priority for me, and they felt I dropped it on their toes. I hadn't given them enough planning and all this kind of stuff. So we had a little body. So that communication, that understanding the other party and what's important to them and their priorities is, again, at the core of that relationship. And I think this book, I'm going to play devil's advocate with you, Mr. McCurdy, very briefly. And this may impact even those considering buying the book. How much of a role does ego and pride play in the non-techie, particularly the senior board member or CEO, either not wanting to ask a question and being exposed for not knowing the answer to it, or just, they just believe they're right in everything? I mean, what role does that play again in this schism that we sometimes see?
Yeah, I think that plays a role in everybody's decision making. I am a techie, and ego and and that imposter syndrome and all those things. There's times where I'm afraid to ask a technical question. That's been the glorious thing that all of the LLMs have given us is I can ask that thing the dumb questions that I don't want my team to know I don't know. But there's a lot of technology out there. And too much technology for any one person to know all of it. I think there was an article I read a number of years ago by a guy named Dan Abramov, and he's in the React community. He's this titan as far as smarts go, and it's a list of stuff he doesn't know. And I was going through that list, and I was thinking to myself, well, I know that. Good, he doesn't know how that works. What? No way. Like nobody knows everything. So to your question, from the executive side of things or the non-tech leadership side of things, I have seen that. I've seen that play out just as I've seen it play out in my own life and just human nature in general. And I think the way that you solve for that is to just A, recognize it first that it's happening, and then B, start to educate yourself. So like I said previously, so you can empathize and communicate with those people that maybe you don't understand. But I think that first step is just admitting that maybe you don't know everything. And that's really, really hard for some people, for sure.
Yeah. Well, and of course, the other recommendation, Casey, is buy this book.
You buy the book. And
that's going to unlock.
Please buy the book. I need to prove to my wife that all this time was worth it. But even in the first couple of chapters, we talk about like the Dunning-Kruger effect, where we say that a lot of times non-technologists and technologists alike, we think when we start to learn something or we read an article about some technology, we think, we've got it. And you're at like this peak of enlightenment. But really, you know, like a sliver of the total thing. And the longer you stay in it, the more you realize you don't know anything about it. So we cover that in the book. Well, again, please buy the book.
We do indeed. And dare I say that AI has increased the Dunning-Kruger effect with many situations. So again, just leaning into some of your experience and who you think the book is shaped towards. Who do you think it's going to have the highest impact for? Casey, just give me a breakdown of where you think the value will be.
Yeah, I remember it was probably 5 or 6 years ago. I won't say his last name, but Nathan, you know who you are. 5 or 6 years ago, I had a colleague come up to me and say, "Hey, could you teach me how technology works? Like, I want to be a product owner or project manager, and I don't know how the basics of the internet work." And okay, great. So rather than me sitting down and teaching him, I was like, hey, what if I just wrote a quick little blog post about it? It turned into many thousands of words, possibly eclipsing the length of this book. And it was this 12-part web series that I wrote called The Web Explained. It's very bad. Nobody go search that. There's no editor. It was my first foray into writing. It's rough. I did not have an Andrew Weaver for that.
Very kind. Is it out there? Is it out there if someone wants to search?
Yeah, if you go to CaseyMcCurdy.com, that's just my website. Yeah, it's my Substack. It's deep in the archives. So if you go to the first ramblings, it's there. There's still some goodness to it, but boy, you might want a pot of coffee to get through it. But they always say, like, if you're not ashamed by the first thing you did, you waited too long. So I'm very ashamed of it. So cool, it was perfect. But it was in that I realized that there's a lot of really smart people in the world that just aren't technical. And that's okay. They just need to learn enough to be able to understand and work with those technical people around them. And so when I wrote that series of blog posts, it was literally born out of frustration from me from working with non-technical people that just didn't get it and seemingly had no interest in trying to get it. And that can be very frustrating as a technologist for a lot of reasons that we cover. There are, I think when we were first talking about this project, Andrew, we were approached by our publisher and said that he wanted to maybe write a tech book for non-technical people. And I think I said this to you, if not him as well, but I'm like, those books already exist. They're called tech books. If non-techie people really want to learn technology, there is a bevy of books out there for them.
Yeah.
And so that's like the difference, I think, in this book. We do cover some technical topics, but it's not about the tech, to your point, or to the first lesson of CTO Academy. It's rarely about the tech. But if you want to learn how to use these incredibly awesome, experienced, sometimes quirky assets around you and your technologists, this might just give you enough to be able to speak to them eloquently and maybe trust them someday. I don't know. That might be a far-fetched goal.
Yeah, cool. Well, listen, we cover, I mean, we really do focus around people managing technology effectively, but it is, I know that I can't go very deep in this stuff. I just don't have that technical background. So it's very much pitched on that basis. Are there any kind of 2 or 3 key topics that you would say that people should kind of head to straight away within the book, Casey?
There's definitely 2 things that, maybe 2 or 3 things that's pretty clear that I'm passionate about in the book. And, that is the role of a good product organization within your organization. So we have some chapters about that, just how important it is for product people in your organization to be able to have a really good vision and to both play, defense for the team in a lot of cases, but then also ensure that, they understand enough to where when their engineers come to them with a trade-off, and in engineering and in anything creative, there are always trade-offs, that they can make the right decision, that even if they say no to an engineer, the engineer gets that, like, this product person is there for them. And it isn't all about just being a feature factory and cranking as many things out as possible. So the product organization for me, I'm very passionate about. I've just seen too many times where it's gone really, really wrong and has been bad. And I've also seen these beautiful times where a great product organization has just been a game changer for the engineers I've gotten to lead. The other part that I think, and we spend 2 chapters on this, is actually security. Mm-hmm. It's not fun to talk about security. I mean, security is like buying insurance. Nobody enjoys buying insurance. Like, it's, every time you write that check, you're like, I hate it. But when you get into an accident, you're glad you had it, and so, those 2 sections for me, I think were it's pretty apparent that I've got passions there. So I think that's what I'll say about that. I don't know where to go from there.
Yeah, that's cool. I think, and I hope this comes across when people do read it. I mean, we are, as you can probably already picked out, we are cut from different cloth in terms of our background, but similar cloth in our approach. So there's a kind of, there's no jargon in there. I think you've got are you a fan of Stephen Pressfield? You mentioned. Casey.
Oh yeah.
What was the quote of the book?
Yeah, it's from his book, and if you have to bleep me on this, I'm sorry. It's the title of the book, but big fan of Stephen Pressfield, and he wrote a book called "No One Wants to Read Your Shit." And in that, he just the quote that always stuck out to me was just, strip away all the fluff, get to the point, clear, concise writing. It's respecting the audience's time. It's keeping them engaged. If our target for this is the non-technical leader, they've already got enough going on.
Yeah.
And there's already, I mean, I had this realization when I was at I don't know what you call them in the UK, but in the US, it'd be like a thrift store, like a secondhand, like a used store. I was at this used clothing and bookstore with my son the other day, and I saw an entire wall of books. Everything from like how aircraft engines work to homemade cooking to, Microsoft Visio 1996, like all these books. And I realized, like, does the world need another book? I don't know. But if you pick up our book, I hope that you realize that we really were trying to be really intentional with your time, because it's valuable. So that was always the aim and the goal for us.
No, 100%. I think we've achieved that. A little bit of humor thrown in there as well. Little clue is you need to find the section that refers to grandma's teeth. I'm just going to leave it out there. When you find it, we hope that you find it an amusing.
Yeah, see, it was fun. Not only, Andrew, does our spelling of several words differ between the States and the UK, but I loved the little dashes of humor that you'd throw at me and we'd sneak in. If you like some good British humor, that's in there along with whatever flavor my humor is.
Yeah, no, and it's a nice point. To those in America, we ended up going with the UK English version because our publisher is British. But yes, you will find a few quirky spellings if you're from the other side.
Or correct spellings if you're from the UK.
Exactly right. Exactly right.
I believe you were first, so we'll give it to you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, well, we've fallen rather further behind since those wonderful days. But great. Listen, Casey, we're going to wrap up. Thank you. I mean, thank you for the journey. I've loved writing it with you. Yeah. It's been a real pleasure, and I've learned a huge amount from it. Just a couple of final thoughts on it, and I'll kind of leave the audience with where they can get it. But from your perspective, Casey, any final thoughts?
We wrote this not to try to prove how smart we are or to make you the smartest person in the room. We wrote this so that you can understand how smart your techies are. And if you already realize that, great. You're a step ahead. There's still stuff for you in it. And if you're not there yet, it'd be my hope that you read this and you're like, wow, I understand why they act that way and why they get angry when I do that thing. So yeah, again, hope you pick up the book. But Andrew, it's been awesome working with you on this project. I've really, really appreciated it. And it's been a long, long journey, but here we almost are.
Yeah. Can you believe Casey, who was quite often seen in his local Starbucks at 4:30 in the morning, writing chunks of this book, has already thrown another idea at me. But we'll have to see how this goes first. But listen, it's going to be released soon. It's September the 3rd as we record this. I believe it's going to be free and available during September. Amazon, Bite-Sized Books, CaseyMcCurdy.com, CTO Academy. There'll be a variety of places you can find and buy this book. But thank you, Casey, for sharing this journey with me. Thank you for watching, and please get in touch as and when you do get your hands on a copy of Bridging the Gap. Thanks for watching.